Hello, everybody, and welcome to another review of WandaVision. We're taking a look today at episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall, which probably should have been the biggest clue right away that they were going to be, I'm just going to kind of jump right in, that they were satirizing in both overall episode style as well as especially the like title sequence. They went for kind of a thing with the music is The Office, but I guess there might have been a bit of Parks and Rec, reference going on in there as well, but very on the nose, like mockumentary style sitcom angle, which is interesting because they are now past the point where they're doing I guess I didn't even realize in the previous episode I don't think they did laugh tracks either, but they aren't doing it now in what is now clearly like a 2010s kind of scenario. And it fits really well with so the overall vibe of this episode essentially comes down to Wanda not feeling like she's in control anymore. And that's an important thing to kind of keep in mind as we're going through this. But we kind of open on, it's, I guess, the day after in Westview, it's the day after Halloween. Outside, I guess it's also the day after in the outside world as well, but Wanda just feels exhausted after increasing the size of the hex, and kind of wants the twins to sort of disappear for a little while and like has them play games downstairs and leave her alone for a bit. There's kind of this interesting bit where Billy, who I guess is not based on, but like who is Wiccan in the comics, is talking about how like his head hurts and like he keeps hearing people and all of this, and it's I think he's supposed to have like I was gonna say telekinetic, that's not right, telepathic abilities, like he can hear people's thoughts and stuff. So if she's kind of controlling the town, then that would explain kind of, what, that's all about. Like he's hearing all of this interference and noise and just shit going on there. But eventually, like she comes downstairs, and things are just kind of like changing around her. Like a houseplant suddenly changes, the TV suddenly changes. She goes to have some cereal and like, I forget what it is at first, but then it turns into like a milk carton from like the 80s, which has a missing child thing on it too, which is kind of interesting. I'm curious if that's important in some way. And then it turns into like a milk bottle from like the 50s. I think it might have even been in black and white as well. And like all sort of like furniture and stuff are changing. Everything is starting to act kind of funky, and Wanda's not really in control. And it sort of sets the tone for where Wanda's at after this, where she's just kind of like, I don't have full control of what's going on here. We get a glimpse of Vision, who is back inside the hex, since it expanded and consumed him. And he also meets Darcy inside the hex, because she got consumed by it as well, and she, along with all of the sword agents that got caught in there, have been turned into circus performers, and she winds up being an escape artist. So she just kind of like throws the chains off her, which were remade from, I think she was handcuffed to the front grill of like a sword SUV or something. So Vision tries talking to her. It doesn't really take. So finally he's like, all right, fine, does the thing and like releases her. And she's immediately like, okay, cool, we got to get out of here. They escape from the circus. It's like a traveling circus is what it looks like, which is a less than subtle, thought there that sort are clowns in all of this. And what is going on with my eyebrow here? Jeez, I get this one little, I don't know what that's all about. That's fun. That's going to be a fun thing to look at. There we go. Fixed it. Cool. My hair is like all a mess too, so I'm going to be like staring at myself. But so Vision and Darcy head off in like, they steal a funnel cake van from the circus, and they head off to an intersection where they kind of, so there's a red light, and as they're just sitting there, they're talking, and she's kind of filling him in on what his life was about him being an Avenger, about him starting out as an AI called Jarvis, about him, his body being built by Ultron, the fact that he died twice, once by Wanda's hand and then again in front of Wanda by Thanos. So he's been kind of filled in on all the like biographical information of his life prior to Westview, which gives him a little bit of time to think about it. And he says like, what does that make me now? Like who am I now? Because he doesn't know any of these things. He's being told these things, and he doesn't really know what his purpose is. And even he also has these like little cutaway like both Wanda and Vision have these like little cutaway interview moments where they're talking directly to the camera, and Vision at one point, like, so he mentions like that Wanda's doing everything in her power to keep him like in the town, keep him in Westview. So like even as this is happening, there's a red light at an empty intersection in the middle of nowhere, followed by construction work that eventually wraps up, and then there's suddenly a line of school children that are crossing the road and stuff. And eventually Vision's just fed up and he just like flies off. And I actually think that's the last we see of him in this episode, which is kind of interesting. I figured that he was headed back to Wanda, but we don't actually see Vision approach anybody else the rest of the episode. It was kind of a nice little like segment with Vision and Darcy kind of filling him in since he's been trying to escape, and Darcy even says like, I don't know why like you weren't able to get out. And it's interesting because it's entirely possible that this Vision is a construct and not the body of the dead Vision, just kind of reanimated and restarted. It's entirely possible this is fully a construct in a way where it would break down entirely if it reached the outside, especially since like clothes and materials and things have been able to leave from the hex, and it hasn't been it stayed the way it is. Like it hasn't broken down or fallen apart or anything. So it's kind of weird that Vision specifically is having that much of a struggle, especially Vision being someone who can phase through matter. The fact that he gets pulled back, but he can't quite escape from that is very interesting, especially given some other things that happen in this episode, which I guess we can jump into right now. So on the outside, Jimmy Woo and Monica Rambeau meet up with Monica's contact. It was like Major Goodner. It's an Air Force major who supplied them with the, I guess it was like a space rover, but it's protection against like gamma radiation and electromagnetism and basically everything they could think of. I think they even mentioned that it was supposed to have some kind of shielding against like ESP or something like that in the previous episode. Like it's basically meant to be completely impervious to everything. And so Monica gets into like this spacesuit, and she drives up to the hex, and she's like flying. She's flooring it. It's probably like, I mean, flooring it for a rover. So it was like 50, 60 miles an hour. And it just like, it doesn't like crash. It just kind of like it embeds itself and just sort of stops entirely. And then it kind of like kicks up in a way where like now the wheels are up and it's like kind of grinding against the hex, and the hex starts absorbing and changing the vehicle. Like it's too strong even for what they had planned. And Monica just barely escapes in time. And you see the rover get thrown back, and the front of it looks like, I didn't get a good look at it. It looked like a van, like a brown, like not like a moving van, but like just a big van, from like the 70s or something, I guess. But so she drops her helmet, and she decides that she's just going to run through. She's like, I can make it. Jimmy Woo tries to stop her, but they don't get anywhere near stopping her. And she starts pushing through, and you can it's this really cool moment because you see all of these different versions of her from within the show, like just kind of like morphing around her and stuff. And you're hearing like audio clips of both stuff from this show as well as stuff from Captain Marvel with her talking with her mom. As well as I think Director Fury is in there as well. There's a few like voiceover bits that you hear, but it's basically, the idea being that Monica has been trying forever to, live up to her mom's reputation and all the good that her mom had done and stuff. And as she's like breaking through at the end, she's actually able to push through the barrier. And Darcy had mentioned, Darcy had mentioned earlier on that like her molecules are being changed by her passing through the barrier the first time. It's like, it's way too dangerous. We don't know what could happen. And she finally is able to actually push all the way through, and her eyes are like glowing this bright, bright blue. And you can kind of see, she like looks around and she sees this like red, blue, purple interference kind of, it's almost like little rippling waves, I guess, off of everything around her. She can basically see the effects of what's going on. And so it's clear that she has abilities at this point. At that stage in the episode, it's just that she can see things, and it's kind of unclear what else is going on. But I mentioned, I think in the last video I did, that in the comics she winds up being a hero called Spectrum, and it's cool that her first thing is that she's seeing this kind of multicolored thing going on. But so she heads out. She's going to go find what's going on. Agnes, at some point during all this, had shown up to Wanda's house, like right at the exact moment right before Wanda was about to kind of collapse, and offers to take the kids, takes the kids over, and they're spending time over there. Billy mentions that he doesn't hear anything inside of Agnes, which I had thought was meant to imply that her own mental state was so consumed by Wanda that she just had nothing going on, like she was being suppressed entirely. And she even has a moment or two where she talks directly to the camera as well. So she has an interview moment as well, which is kind of interesting. And let's see. I will take a quick break here to talk about the commercial for Nexus, an antidepressant. And it's maybe the most aggressive, blunt commercial that they've had so far. And it's like, take Nexus for, because the world won't wait for you, or maybe it will. Like, it's just kind of, it was very, very weird. The pill also was red. They even had, like a light at the pharmacy was like shining really bright red on there. Once again, we have our two main commercial actors, which I kind of hope we get a little something with them in the end of this, because they've been as consistent as anybody else in the show, and I kind of hope there's a little bit of a payoff for what's happening with them. But so, let's see. Yeah. So, all right. There's a really important point in the episode that I'm like holding off from until I'm like really sure that I'm good to go with it. But so yeah, I guess we're good to get in there. There's Monica now is just kind of like, so she hasn't been altered at all. She's able to freely enter Westview. She runs off. She finds Wanda and she confronts her. Wanda is pissed off, and hey. Cat behind me scratching chair. Wanda is pissed off and accuses sort of like being everything that's wrong with her right now. Ooh, my focus is all weird. There we go. Better. Accuses sort of being the ones that set everything up. The drone. There is some. Oh, what was the other thing that? There was some other thing that they accused. They accused her sort of, or that she accused sort of, and then said Pietro, which Monica even is just like, no, that wasn't us. We had nothing to do. We don't know what that was all about. That was not us. And so they kind of, so Wanda tries to like slam her into the ground, but Monica's actually able to catch herself, like obviously using some kind of ability, but she's able to 3-point land herself, down to safety. So she's got some superhuman strength going on at this point as a result of this. And there's a point where it seems like Monica is successfully talking Wanda down and saying like, look, she actually challenges Wanda, is like, hey, go ahead. Wanda is, threatens to basically kill her, and Monica's like, go ahead then, do it. Just do it. And Wanda refuses to. She just kind of like stands there and doesn't do anything. And Monica kind of takes that as like, see, there you go. That's proof that you're willing to like find a different solution here. Hayward wants to like burn this all to the ground. Don't let yourself be the villain. Like, so she's actually doing a pretty good job of talking her down. And then Agnes next door looks out the window, sees something up, and like injects herself into the conversation and pulls Wanda away and is like, gets her out of there. And it's kind of like, God damn it. All right. So Wanda goes over and Agnes says that she'll make some tea or something. And Wanda kind of looks around and notices like, well, there's sandwiches that the kids had with like the crusts, around them, but the kids aren't around. Says like, well, so where are the twins? Says like maybe in the basement. Wanda heads down to the basement, and in the back of the basement is this kind of like medieval looking like dungeon doorway that goes into a little like tunnel. And in the back of the tunnel is like this temple, kind of vaguely like satanic looking kind of temple deal. And Wanda is very confused, and Agnes kind of walks in and introduces herself as Agatha Harkness, who I don't know much about. This is more of a deep cut into Marvel than I'm familiar with generally, but Agatha Harkness is a character with a number of varying like kind of associations with dark characters. I think she's supposed to be a witch from like the Salem witch trial era, among other things, but also she's got tenuous connections with I think Mephisto, as well as tenuous connections with a few villains from Doctor Strange's catalog. And apparently there was supposed to be something that bridged the gap between WandaVision into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And I'm wondering if this is going to be connected to that in some way. There were a few clues that were there for this. So for one, after she's like, what, you thought you were the only magical girl in town? And she like uses a similar power to what Wanda has, except it's purple instead of red. And she like the power like goes into Wanda, and she shows her basically that from the very beginning of the show, she's been present specifically to fuck with Wanda. It shows her showing up with like the like housewarming gift in the first episode. She's using her magic to mess with the stage show in the second episode. There was, oh boy, did I write down any other ones? She's also responsible for Pietro. She was like having a little picnic on the lawn when Pietro showed up at the door. So that's an interesting little twist there. I was under the assumption, I think the idea they were going for was that Pietro was some kind of construct or figment of Wanda, not an external thing that was going on. I had heard some people, theorizing earlier on that Pietro was secretly Mephisto or something. I've got a better theory. My theory is based on the very last shot. It's that this episode actually has a stinger. Based on the stinger at the very end of the episode, I believe that, I guess not. I would like... My theory kind of at the end of the episode was like, what if Pietro is Ralph? Basically, like he's just a guy who she's kind of like made into Pietro, which further makes the Evan Peters-ness of it like more of a meta thing than it even was before, since he's presumably not even Pietro, and she could have enchanted him or the overall hex to make it so that he had superpowers and super speed and all of that. But yeah, so there's like this segment where it's like a theme song to another TV show called Agnes All Along, and it just kind of like walks through all these things she's been doing secretly, including in this episode, she's sitting behind the camera that is filming Wanda for those segments. Because at one point there's a male voice that asks like, do you think maybe this is because you deserve it? Like, this is all happening because you deserve it to happen to you? And even Wanda's like, I'm sorry, what? I thought you weren't supposed to speak. And so that also was Agnes, like, controlling all of this shit. The three biggest clues in this episode would have been One, so very light kind of hint, but Agnes as a contraction of Agatha Harkness, so Agnes, as kind of a little thing there. It's a small one. Like, I don't know if that would have been a big enough thing. The second one would have been, was it Senor Scratch or Senor Scratchy? The rabbit. In the comics, Agatha Harkness has a son named Nicholas Scratch. So it's a possible little something there, and obviously rabbits and hats and magic and all of that jazz too. The bigger one probably would have been that the only characters who speak into the camera directly and break the fourth wall in this episode are Wanda, Vision, Darcy, and I think for her it's literally once, and Agnes. She's the only she's the only pre-existing character to also participate in that. So we are definitely firmly. Oh, and the reason that the last shot was kind of interesting to me is it's Monica showing up and Monica's looking around Agnes's house in the neighborhood, and she finds the big storm doors to the cellar, and Pietro shows up. It just kind of is standing next to her and says, "Snooper's gonna snoop," and she gasps, and that's kind of the end of the episode. So she's been caught as well. So we're firmly into the third arc of the third act, I guess, of this show. The first act was kind of the setup of the show universe and what's all going on there, and it kind of ends with Wanda throwing Monica out of Westview. The second arc had a lot more to do with Monica meeting Darcy and Jimmy and kind of figuring out their plan of how they're actually going to fix this. We learn a lot more about S.W.O.R.D., and it's also Wanda slowly expanding her universe and starting to lose some control over it, between Vision becoming suspicious, the twins being born and aging themselves up to 10, Pietro showing up, all of these things, and Vision actually attempting to escape, prompting Wanda to expand it. And now we're in this third act where now we have a clear villain for the show in Agatha Harkness. We have a lot of questions that are being asked about what's going on, with Vision, what's going to happen to him when he's done, because Hayward was apparently planning not to decommission Vision, but rather reactivate him and use him as sort of a S.W.O.R.D. asset. So you sort of have a secondary villain in Hayward being kind of the not necessarily villainous, but definitely dark, kind of corrupt use of authority. He's not trying to take over. He's not trying to destroy, I don't know. It's interesting. He's definitely a bad guy for this show, but I think they're going to try to redeem him in the end, or have him, get arrested or something. I don't know. I'm guessing that Monica is probably going to wind up being the head of S.W.O.R.D. at the end of this. Or maybe she won't. She might be too busy being an actual superhero now, and it might fall to I don't know, Darcy or somebody else, maybe Jimmy or Goodner or anybody else that's there. I don't really know. But yeah, so this episode was really interesting. It's set. It's interesting that the show is doing a really good job of incrementally building on itself. There was some article, I don't even remember what the organization was that ran it, but it was basically complaining that we didn't know who the villain was already. Complaining that we didn't know basically everything that was at stake a week or two ago. And it's just that's how TV shows work. You find things out bit by bit. You don't get everything cleanly in one go. That's how TV works, especially dramatic television, where you're trying to tell a story and keep some suspense. So now we have 2 final episodes. I assume I'm actually kind of wondering, so the sitcom angle, I wouldn't be surprised if episode 8 wound up playing off the clip show trope. Not necessarily in the way that everything is like, here's bits and pieces from the show so far, but rather Agatha, I guess, starts messing with everybody and like forcing the show into its different like eras and stuff or something. I don't really know. These feel like way wilder guesses than they did before. We don't really have a set of sitcoms to refer to in the 2020s that could be referred to at this point. If anything, they could go even more meta with it and have the 2020s sitcom be WandaVision. So I don't know. It's very interesting. We keep getting backfilled information, which is kind of neat. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot more about Agatha's history and what her deal is. And oh man, just want to pull the thing up here real quick because Kathryn Hahn, I think, was her name. I'm trying to remember the actress's name who plays Agnes / Agatha. Kathryn Hahn, yeah, there we go. She is a great like surprise villain for this thing, like both as a character and as an actor. I've seen her in so many like bit parts of things and like supporting roles over the years, so it's great to have her jump to the front for this one. I'm curious if Goad is like going nuts behind me here. I'm curious if she's going to carry through beyond WandaVision or if this is going to be it. I'm curious if she'll turn up as a character in some of the, so it's interesting, right? Like now we're in a position, or we will be soon, basically, when Loki, What If, and Doctor Strange 2 are all on the table. We'll be in a position where the multiverse becomes way more accessible, and we have sort of the ability to say like, all right, so, Killmonger is dead, but here's some alternate version of him where we get to kind of like see a different take on the character for one reason or another. Or, here's what the Abomination would have been like in this. Like, I'm curious to see if any of these, like, what characters from this could carry forward past the show. I'm curious to see what, if any of them will turn up for other multiverse or alternate take kind of deals too. It was a very interesting. Oh, there was also, it was also interesting that she was a witch for the Halloween party and had her whole like cackling, like, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead thing. Obviously she was faking, she was faking being all fucked up and then faking being released from being fucked up. It's interesting that she was aware of his ability to do that. Also, that email, that reminds me, that email that Vision got in his office was sent by Hayward specifically to kind of unseat Vision from Wanda's illusions and try to get him to escape and return himself essentially back to Sword custody. But yeah, this is one of those shows that I feel like I'm going to want to go back and watch a second time now that I know more about what's going on and see how they've been interlacing this stuff the whole time. Like Vision even mentions earlier on, I think episode 5. I want to say it's episode 5, the one where the kids are born, one where the kids start aging themselves up. Where he kind of, mentions that like he's realized that Agnes keeps showing up at the exact moment that she needs to be there, and always seems to have the exact item that needs to be there. And it's double interesting because they play that up as that being Wanda's influence, and I think that was the first time a character actively asked Wanda if they wanted to take that again, basically, and like, do you want to do something about that? Do you want to fix that? Like, it's a little subtle manipulation with that. Also related to that episode, and I guess the one, the one after, the end of the Agnes All Around segment, it has Agnes gleefully cry, shriek out there like, oh, I killed Sparky too. And the episode ends like on that, with her holding the dead dog in a blanket in saying that she killed the dog. There's the strong implication that she killed the twins too. That we don't know where Billy and Tommy are. They might be dead. It's questionable whether they strictly existed at all, but they may very well be dead because there's no sign of them after Billy notices there's nothing in Agnes's head. So that might be the end of them, but we'll have to see what comes up in future episodes. We got 2 more to go. Feel free to leave your comments on the episode below and let me know what your theories are for where this season is going to end up. We got 2 more episodes. And I think they said that this was most likely going to be a one season series, that it was going to feel very complete by the end, as opposed to Loki, which I think is already working on its 2nd season. Like they're in the pre-production phases for a season 2. So, which is also interesting because that kind of means that like Loki's adventures are going to be just kind of this continuing alternate universe thing, which is kind of neat. But yeah, so let me know what you think below, and I'll see you guys next week for episode 8. Bye.